Hello and welcome. Let us set aside, for a while, the weight of the day. Close your eyes, if you wish, and drift gently into a slower rhythm where thoughts move like rivers and the world around you softens into quiet. Tonight, we journey not just into the earth we know, but into a question that lingers on the edge of science and wonder. A question that whispers of mysteries too vast for certainty and yet too tempting to leave untouched. What if Earth was carefully designed for life? The idea itself feels at once unsettling and soothing. Unsettling because it dares to suggest that the vastness of the cosmos may not be a blind expanse of chance, but a stage set with purpose. Soothing because it suggests that we are not an accident in the dark, but a part of a plan laid out perhaps with care, perhaps with intelligence, something beyond us, or perhaps within us. Picture Earth as it floats in the darkness of space. From far away, it is a small sphere of blue and white, with streaks of green and brown across its face. A planet that seems ordinary among billions, and yet it holds a secret that the others do not. It breathes, it sings with rivers and forests and winds. It shelters creatures of endless form. It contains, somehow, you. The question arises, is this only coincidence, or is it design? Scientists have long sought to answer the mysteries of why Earth is the way it is. Its placement, its chemistry, its balance each appears to hover on a knife's edge of possibility. Too close to the sun, and our seas would have boiled away. Too far, and our oceans would be locked in endless ice. Our atmosphere, too, walks a delicate line thick enough to shelter us from radiation and hold warmth, but thin enough to allow the skies to remain clear and the stars visible. If the conditions of this world were only slightly altered, life as we know it would vanish like mist at dawn. This fine-tuned balance is what many call the Goldilocks principle. Not too hot, not too cold, not too violent, not too barren, just right. And yet, just right is not a phrase that comes easily to the story of random chance. Imagine walking through a desert and finding a perfect glass sculpture. Would you think it formed by the wind alone? Or would you, at least for a moment, wonder if a hand had shaped it? Perhaps Earth is that sculpture now. Let us drift further into the question. What if just for tonight we allow ourselves to imagine that Earth was built with care, not only placed in the perfect zone, but crafted piece by piece, as though by an engineer, or perhaps by architects beyond our comprehension? If you listen carefully, the design speaks in whispers all around you. Consider the tilt of the planet. At 23.5 degrees, Earth leans slightly in its path around the sun. This tilt is not fixed by accident. It grants us the seasons. It spreads warmth across hemispheres. It prevents eternal drought on one side of the planet and eternal frost on the other. Life thrives on variety, and this tilt grants exactly that. Consider, too, the spin of the Earth. Not too fast, not too slow. A day lasts 24 hours, not the blink of a moment, not the eternity of months. A rhythm that gives time for the warming of the day and the cooling of the night, for plants to drink the sunlight and animals to rest in shadow. If the Earth spun more swiftly, storms would tear across the continents with devastating force. If more slowly, the days would scorch and the nights would freeze. Then there is the invisible shield that surrounds us, the magnetic field. Born from the molten iron heart of the Earth, it stretches outward like unseen wings, deflecting the solar wind, protecting our fragile atmosphere from being stripped into the void. Without it, the air we breathe would vanish, and the oceans would evaporate. Mars, our neighbor, may once have had seas, but it lost its shield, and with it, its life-giving air. Earth, somehow, did not. Is this, too, coincidence, or careful design? You might picture an ancient intelligence leaning over the newborn Earth like a potter at the wheel, tilting it just so, spinning it at the right pace, setting its molten core in motion, as though each adjustment were a note in a symphony that would someday include us. But if Earth was designed, who or what designed it? Some might call it God. Others might whisper of civilizations so advanced they could seed worlds across galaxies. Perhaps not gods, but gardeners. Gardeners who plant and water and wait. And yet, there is another possibility still, that Earth is not designed by a mind, but shaped by the quiet hand of the universe itself, through patterns of physics and chance so finely woven that they create the illusion of intent. Could it be that in the chaos of stars, design emerges naturally, that the sculptor is not a being, but the laws of existence itself? As you rest and drift deeper into this thought, imagine Earth at its beginning, a fiery ball of rock, spinning in a sky filled with dust and glowing gas. For millions of years, comets struck its surface, bringing with them ice and the building blocks of life. Out of chaos, balance began to form. Water pooled, clouds gathered, and the first oceans shimmered beneath the young sun. If this was design, it was not the design of a clockmaker winding a gear. It was the design of patience, of time stretching out in vast silence, waiting for the right combination to breathe life into being. The first cells rose, fragile, simple, and yet miraculous. They began the long story of evolution, a story written in the quiet script of DNA. Was DNA itself an invention, placed into the waters like a code from beyond? A message written in 4 letters, T, C, G, that could unfold into every creature that would ever walk, swim, or fly? Or was DNA simply a natural law, hidden in the chemistry of the cosmos, waiting to be unlocked? These questions bring us to a horizon we cannot yet cross, but we can walk beside it in wonder. Think, now, of the skies above Earth. The sun shines with gentle stability. Unlike many stars that flicker and flare in violence, it burns steadily for billions of years, providing a light that is warm, not harsh. Its size, its distance, its lifespan is aligned to allow life to not only appear, but to persist. If the sun were smaller, it would flare too wildly. If it were larger, it would burn too hot and too briefly. Ours, it seems, is just right. And then there is the moon, silent, silver, watching always, a companion so perfect it shapes the rhythm of the tides. Its presence steadies the Earth's tilt, preventing wild swings that would make climate unstable. It pulls at the seas, stirring them gently, nurturing the first life in the intertidal pools. Without the moon, perhaps we would never have risen from the waters. Perhaps we would not be here at all. Can chance explain such harmony? Or do we glimpse, again, the outline of design? Imagine now that you stand on a quiet shore. The waves roll in with a steady rhythm, their crests glowing faintly in the moonlight. You listen, and the sea sounds like breathing. It is as though the Earth itself exhales, as though it were alive in ways we cannot yet understand. Perhaps it is not only the creatures upon the Earth that are alive. Perhaps the world itself is a living being, shaped to carry us, and countless others, through the dark dot. And if Earth is alive, perhaps it was born not only to survive, but to nurture. What if, in some distant corner of the galaxy, there are other worlds, also designed, also balanced, each carrying their own forms of life? And what if, one day, those lives will look up at the stars and wonder if they are alone, just as we do tonight? The thought is both comforting and humbling. We may be one story among many, written into the vast library of the universe. As we close this first reflection, let the question linger softly in your thoughts. Is our world an accident of chance, or a masterpiece of design? A sculpture left in the sands of time, or the flowering of a greater plan? The truth, perhaps, will always remain beyond our grasp. But in the wondering, in the gentle asking, we find a kind of peace. For whether Earth is a miracle of design, or the rare jewel of chance, it is ours to dwell upon, to cherish, and to explore. Rest with that thought tonight. The earth beneath you may hold secrets beyond imagination, secrets that whisper softly that life is not alone in the dark. If you close your eyes for a moment and drift far above the earth, you might picture it from the vantage of the stars, a fragile sphere wrapped in a thin veil of clouds, turning slowly in the quiet dark. From that distance, it seems small, and yet, in its smallness, it holds a secret. It rests in a place so precise, so balanced, that we give it a name: the habitable zone. Not too close to the sun, not too far away. Some call it the Goldilocks zone, a narrow band around a star where liquid water can flow, where warmth can linger, and where life as we know it can take root. Earth rests within this band like a pearl on a delicate thread, not at the inner edge where oceans would vanish into vapor, and not at the outer edge where seas would freeze solid under a pale, dim light. Earth rests in the middle. This placement is more than luck, it is everything, for without it we would not be here to wonder. Imagine, for a moment, what Earth might have been had it strayed only slightly. If we were only a little closer, the atmosphere would thicken with steam. Oceans would swell, then vanish, leaving behind a scorched world like Venus, a planet covered in endless clouds, where rain never falls and heat never escapes, a furnace locked in silence. Or, if we drifted just a little farther out, the warmth of the sun would slip away. The oceans would harden into ice, continents would be buried beneath glaciers, and the air itself might freeze. A desert of frost, like Mars, where dust storms race across lifeless plains. Earth exists in the narrow sliver between these fates, balanced as though placed deliberately in this slender sanctuary. The question arises, why here? Why, among the billions of possibilities, does our home rest in the perfect band? Some would say it is simply coincidence that among countless planets scattered through the galaxy, one was bound to be in the right place, and we happen to live on it. Others whisper of design, of a choice made by some unseen architect, who placed Earth in the only place it could truly flourish. But whether coincidence or care, the result is the same. A world alive. Don't think of the sun itself, for the habitable zone depends not only on distance, but on the star that gives its light. Our sun is calm, steady, and enduring, not so massive that it burns too fast, not so small that it flickers with violent bursts. Its lifespan is measured in billions of years, long enough for life to emerge, long enough for life to grow, long enough for you, here, now. When the first seas formed on Earth, they shimmered beneath a dimmer sun. Scientists tell us that in those early days, the sun shone less brightly, and yet the Earth remained warm enough to keep its oceans liquid. How perhaps greenhouse gases cloaked the planet, holding in just enough heat. Perhaps the Earth's balance was adjusted again, subtly, as though to keep the world alive, and so, as the sun brightened over time, Earth adapted. The gases shifted, the seas absorbed, the cycles of life adjusted to maintain the delicate equilibrium. Too much carbon, and the world would swelter. Too little, and the seas would freeze. Yet somehow, across billions of years, the balance has held. You might imagine an invisible hand, constantly fine-tuning the dials, keeping the planet within the narrow band of habitability. Too perfect, perhaps, to be mere chance. Or perhaps, it is not a hand, but a pattern. A law of nature that makes such balance inevitable. Though it feels like design. Now, picture the Earth turning slowly on its axis as it moves around the sun. Every year, it traces the same path, neither straying closer nor drifting too far. The orbit is nearly circular, a steady, gentle loop. Many planets follow elongated paths, swinging wildly between heat and cold. But not Earth. Its orbit is nearly perfect, almost as though chosen. This steady path ensures that the climate does not swing into chaos. Winters are cold, yes, and summers warm, but life can endure them. Without this stability, survival might never have been possible. Again, the question lingers: is this coincidence, or the signature of something greater? Look, too, at the presence of water, not just its existence, but its abundance. Water is not rare in the cosmos. Comets carry it, moons hide it beneath ice, but on Earth it is everywhere. It flows in rivers, it spreads across oceans, it falls from the skies and rises again in mist. Earth is not only in the habitable zone, it seems designed to be filled with water, to let it cycle endlessly, as though the entire planet were built to carry seas upon its shoulders. And water, as we know, is not merely a feature of life, it is its very foundation. Without it, there can be no cells, no breathing, no blood. The Earth is not just in the right place for water. It is the kind of world that holds onto water, shelters it, and shares it across every landscape. Now think of the subtle interplay between water and heat. The oceans absorb the warmth of the sun by day and release it by night. They carry currents across the globe, distributing heat from the equator to the poles. Without this circulation, one half of the planet might bake, while the other froze. But here, again, balance reigns. Warmth is spread gently across continents and seas, making the Earth a place where forests and deserts, mountains and plains can all exist together. Imagine an ancient hand painting this world, stroke by stroke, a brush dipped in blue for oceans, in green for forests, in white for clouds. Every layer added with intention, every detail arranged to sustain life. Perhaps this hand belongs to no one, and to everyone, the universe itself, shaping worlds with artistry beyond our comprehension. The habitable zone is not merely about survival, it is about flourishing. It is not enough that the Earth is warm. It must be stable. It must endure long enough for life to climb from molecules to multicellular forms, from swimming in seas to walking on land. That climb takes time measured not in centuries, but in billions of years. Only a world placed in the perfect zone of both space and time could allow such a story to unfold. And here we are, listening to the echoes of that story. Yet there is more, for even within the habitable zone, danger lurks. Cosmic debris drifts through space. Asteroids, comets, fragments of stone and ice. Earth could have been bombarded endlessly, never giving life a chance. But something else exists. Jupiter, the giant. Its immense gravity pulls many of these wandering bodies away, shielding Earth from constant bombardment, almost as though a guardian had been placed at the edge of our solar system, protecting the fragile world in the center. Coincidence again, or another layer of design? The question deepens as you look closer. Our world is balanced not only in distance and orbit, but in chemistry. Too much oxygen and fires would consume the land. Too little and complex life could not breathe. Too much carbon dioxide and the heat would rise beyond control. Too little and the world would fall into ice. And yet the mixture hovers in perfect proportion, adjusting across ages, allowing forests to grow, seas to teem with life, and humans to walk under the sky. This is the wonder of the habitable zone. It is not a line drawn around a star. It is a harmony of factors, a chorus of balances, all working together to create the possibility of life. Earth is not simply in the right place. It is the right place, the right orbit, the right chemistry, the right star, and the right companions. Each detail aligned like notes in a song. As you drift deeper into this thought, imagine standing beneath the night sky. The stars shine like scattered jewels, each one perhaps with planets of its own. How many of them rest in their habitable zones? How many are too close or too far? And how many might, just perhaps, have their own oceans, their own skies, their own lives looking upward in wonder? We cannot yet know, but here on Earth we do. We live within the narrow sanctuary of warmth and water, a place that could so easily not have been, and yet, somehow, is. A place where the conditions align so perfectly, it feels less like chance, and more like destiny. As the earth turns tonight, as the oceans breathe, and the winds move across the land, let yourself drift with the thought that our home is more than a planet. It is a sanctuary, placed with exquisite precision in the vastness of the cosmos, and perhaps, just perhaps, it was meant to be. If the placement of Earth within the perfect zone was the stage, then water was the first script written upon it. Long before forests stretched toward the sky, long before animals roamed the land, it was water that shaped the story of life. Close your eyes and imagine the earth in its earliest days, a restless sphere wrapped in storms, its surface still young and trembling. Volcanoes rose and fell, comets arrived carrying icy cargo, and from these events the oceans were born. They spread slowly, like ink across parchment, filling basins and craters, joining together until vast blue expanses covered the majority of the planet. It is said that without water, the earth would be silent. No rivers to carve valleys, no clouds to shade the ground, no seas to cradle the earliest stirrings of life. A designer, an engineer, it builds and it shapes. It dissolves and it nourishes. It is the one ingredient that allows molecules to move freely enough to meet, to bond, to spark the beginnings of biology. Imagine, for a moment, the first drop of water falling on Earth's surface. Perhaps it hissed against hot stone. Perhaps it joined with another and another until a pool formed. Given time, they grew more complex. Given more time still, they began to copy themselves. Life had begun. Held in the arms of water, you might picture the oceans of early Earth, dark and churning, filled with minerals and gases, lightning striking above, each wave that curled upon the shore carried with it new possibilities, new experiments. Out of this endless repetition, patterns emerged, and within those patterns, the first true sparks of living systems. It seems simple, almost obvious that life requires water. But pause to consider what makes water so unique. It is a liquid over a wide range of temperatures. It dissolves almost everything it touches. It carries nutrients with ease, and it changes states solid, liquid vapor in ways that allow it to cycle endlessly. No other substance behaves quite like it. If you were to design a blueprint for life, You might begin with water, a universal solvent, capable of holding molecules together, yet never imprisoning them. A medium where reactions could occur, where complexity could grow. On worlds without water, perhaps chemistry falters, too rigid or too sluggish to ever take that leap toward life. This constant motion was no accident. It created variety, diversity of conditions, niches where different kinds of chemistry could thrive. In shallow pools, molecules concentrated and reacted. In deep seas, heat from hydrothermal vents provided energy, fueling strange new forms. Everywhere water went, it shielded the earliest cells from harmful radiation, absorbing the sun's fiercest rays. It cushioned fragile organisms from the violence of the young earth within the ocean's embrace. The first life was safe, sheltered beneath waves that sparkled under a pale sky. Picture, if you can, that early ocean. No fish swam yet, no plants rose toward the surface. Only microscopic beings drifted, invisible to the eye, yet carrying within them the potential of everything that would come after. The forests, the birds, the humans, all were contained in those early whispers of life, suspended in water. Some may see in this a kind of design, as though the earth was given an instruction: begin with water. Without it, the habitable zone would mean nothing. A planet could be warm and bright, yet barren and dry. It is the presence of water, in abundance and in permanence, that transforms a world from stone into sanctuary. But there is more to water than its chemistry. It is also a sculptor of landscapes. Look at the rivers, carving canyons through rock. Look at glaciers, grinding mountains into valleys. Look at waves, reshaping shorelines with every tide. The very face of the earth is drawn and redrawn by water's patient hand. Even now, as you listen, rivers are flowing, glaciers are moving, raindrops are falling. The design continues, ceaseless and eternal, and water is not still. It cycles, from ocean to sky, from cloud to rain, from river to sea. A perfect loop, powered by sunlight, distributing life's essence across every continent. Without this cycle, deserts would grow unending, forests would wither, and seas would stagnate. Instead, the earth breathes with water. Each drop falling today may once have fallen millions of years ago, on another forest, another ocean, another age. You might imagine water as the memory of the earth. A drop in your hand could once have been part of a glacier, a storm, a sea that nourished the first life. It feels almost alive itself. The uniqueness of water raises a quiet question. Is it coincidence that Earth has so much of it? Or was water, too, part of a deeper plan? Astronomers look to other worlds, icy moons, frozen comets, dry planet sand, search for water. For wherever water is, the possibility of life seems to linger. Yet none, so far, have shown the abundance, the flowing seas, the endless cycles that Earth enjoys. We live on a water world, a planet where oceans dominate, where blue defines the view from space. Too much water, and the continents would vanish beneath endless waves. But Earth holds just enough a balance that allows both oceans and land, both marine and terrestrial life. Another coincidence, or another design. And think of how water shapes not only the physical world, but the biological bodies of living creatures are mostly water. The blood in your veins, the sap in trees, the fluids of every cellage is an echo of the ancient ocean. Life never truly left the water. It carries the ocean within it, wherever it goes. Every breath, every heartbeat, every thought is cradled by water, still obeying the first blueprint written long ago. You are, in essence, walking water. The blueprint of water extends beyond biology, beyond geology. It reaches into culture and meaning. Humans have always revered water. Rivers are sacred. Rain is celebrated. Oceans inspire awe and fear in equal measure. We instinctively recognize water's role not just in survival, but in beauty, in mystery, in the feeling of connection to something larger than ourselves. Perhaps that recognition is itself part of the design, that we not only need water, but also revere it, that we see in it something eternal, something almost divine. And so, as the earth turns and the oceans shimmer under the moon's glow tonight, think of water not as a simple liquid, but as the very foundation of design. It is the engineer's first blueprint, the element from which everything else would rise. Without it, the world would be silent stone. With it, the world sings dot from the first molecule to the rivers that still flow. Water has written the story of life in patient, graceful lines, and as long as it flows, the story continues. Perhaps, in the quiet of night, secrets carried in every drop, waiting for those who listen closely enough, and maybe, in those whispers, you will hear the truth, that water is not only part of life, it is life. Look up, even now, wherever you are, beyond ceilings, beyond rooftops, beyond trees or mountains, there stretches an invisible ocean that holds you in its embrace. You cannot see it, yet it is always there, surrounding, protecting, nourishing. This is the atmosphere, the delicate veil of gases that makes Earth unlike any other world we know. It may seem ordinary, so familiar that you seldom think of it. You breathe without noticing, each inhale and exhale effortless. But imagine, for a moment, if this invisible ocean were gone. The ground beneath your feet would scorch by day and freeze by night. Cosmic radiation would fall unfiltered, striking with silent force. Every plant, every river, every creature would vanish dot. And so, the atmosphere is no mere accident. It is the quiet miracle that allows everything else to be. When the earth was young, its air was nothing like the one you breathe. Now, volcanoes spilled their smoke into the sky, filling it with carbon dioxide, methane, and ammonia. It was dense and choking, a heavy shroud through which no lungs could draw breath. The skies would have been painted red and orange, hazy and alien. Yet, even then, the seeds of transformation were stirring. The oceans, full of tiny, primitive life, began a revolution. Minute organisms learned to use sunlight, splitting water, releasing oxygen. Slowly, invisibly, molecule by molecule, the atmosphere began to change. At first, oxygen was a poison too much of life. Yet, over uncounted ages, life adapted, learned, and finally embraced it. What had been deadly became essential. The atmosphere became a symphony of balance. Oxygen for breath, nitrogen as a steady backdrop, carbon dioxide in just enough measure to warm the planet without consuming it. It is as if someone adjusted dials and levers with infinite patience until the mixture was just right. Too much oxygen, and fires would rage uncontrollably, burning forests and plains. Too little, and animals like you could never exist. Too much, carbon dioxide, and the seas would boil. Too little, and ice would grip the earth. Instead, the balance holds delicate, precise, enduring dot. Think of how the atmosphere not only sustains, but protects. High above, in a layer called the ozone, molecules absorb ultraviolet light from the sun, shielding the surface from its most dangerous rays. Higher still, invisible magnetic fields guide cosmic particles away, wrapping the planet in safety. Even the clouds, drifting silently across the sky, are part of this design. They reflect sunlight, cool the earth, carry water across continents, and soften the harshness of day into gentle shade. You might imagine it as a carefully woven fabric, each thread essential, each layer purposeful. A cloak wrapped around the earth, tailored so perfectly it seems made to order, and within that cloak, life breathes. You inhale, and oxygen fills your lungs, binds to your blood, and carries energy to every cell. You exhale, and carbon dioxide returns to the air, later to be taken in by plants who turn it once again into oxygen. It is a cycle, a perfect exchange, an invisible dance between breath and leaf, between animal and tree, between ocean and sky. Without the atmosphere, that dance could not exist. It is not only the medium of survival, it is the stage upon which all living systems play their part. Close your eyes and imagine standing in a forest. The air is cool and full of scents, damp soil, green leaves, the faint sweetness of flowers. What you breathe in that moment is not just oxygen, but the memory of life itself. Each molecule of air has been part of countless breaths before yours. It has risen from oceans, flowed through forests, circled mountains, and drifted across deserts. It has belonged to animals long extinct, to humans long forgotten, to worlds before your own. The air remembers. Every breath is a shared inheritance, passed endlessly from one life to another. The atmosphere connects all beings across all times, and in this connection you may sense a kind of intention, a design that not only sustains but unites beyond breath. The atmosphere paints the earth in beauty, the blues of the daytime sky, the reds of sunset, the shimmering greens of auroras, all are gifts of gases, scattering light, bending particles, revealing colors hidden within sunlight. You might look upward and think it is empty space, but in truth, the atmosphere is alive with motion and transformation, carrying winds, shaping climates, creating weather. It is the reason rain falls, snow blankets the ground, thunder rumbles, and rainbows arch across the sky. It is the unseen hand that turns deserts into fertile valleys, that carries seeds across oceans, that guides birds in their migrations, and it is patient. For billions of years, the atmosphere has shifted and balanced, adapting as the sun grew brighter, as continents moved, as life itself changed. Like a living thing, it adjusts, stabilizes, learns. Sometimes it falters. There have been ages of ice and fire, but always it returns, holding Earth within a range where life continues. Consider other worlds. Mars, thin and barren, its air stripped away, silent and cold. Venus, thick with carbon dioxide, its skies suffocating and toxic, its surface hot enough to melt metal. The difference is profound, and yet subtle. Just a change of balance, a shift in chemistry, and a world becomes unlivable. Earth's atmosphere seems precariously, improbably perfect. Perhaps that is why some wonder whether it was simply chance, or something more. Was the atmosphere tailored for breath, for life, for you? Or is it merely the survivor, the one among countless worlds that happened to endure? The answer may never be certain, but as you breathe now, it hardly matters. The gift is here, surrounding you, invisible and vital, you might imagine. Late at night, standing on a quiet hill as the wind moves softly around you. That wind is the voice of the atmosphere, ancient and eternal, carrying whispers from across the planet. It has touched mountains and oceans, deserts and forests, before arriving to brush against your skin. In that moment, you are part of something vast and unbroken, a circulation that links you to every corner of Earth. This veil of air is more than protection, more than sustenance. It is part of Earth's character, part of its soul. It is what allows music to carry, what lets voices be heard, what fills every silence with the possibility of sound. Even in stillness, the atmosphere hums faintly with life. And so, as you drift deeper into thought, consider the simple act of breathing in and out. Each breath made possible by a balance so precise, so delicate, that even slight changes would erase the world you know. The atmosphere is not only around you, is within you. It shapes your body, your mind, your very existence. It is, in every sense, tailored for breath. Perhaps this tailoring is the signature of design. Or perhaps it is the rarest of coincidences, one so improbable it feels like intention. Either way, it is a wonder beyond measure. And so you rest, held in the arms of an unseen ocean, breathing without thought, living within a miracle that has no equal, the atmosphere, the silent, perfect breath of Earth. Above you, higher than the atmosphere you breathe, farther than clouds or the arc of migrating birds, lies a boundary that most never notice. It is not visible like a mountain, nor tangible like a river. Yet without it, Earth would be unrecognizable. A lifeless rock adrift in an unforgiving cosmos. This is the shield, the planet's quiet guardian. Every second, Earth is struck by forces from the sky. Particles stream from the sun in a ceaseless wind, racing outward at hundreds of kilometers per second. Invisible radiation travels across space, carrying with it the power to break apart molecules and unravel the delicate threads of life. From beyond the solar system, still harsher rays arrive, born in the violent deaths of stars, traveling unimaginable distances to reach this small blue world. And yet, standing here, you are unaware of the storm. You walk in sunlight, you breathe in calm air, you live without fear of what rages just beyond. Why? Strengthened by time at the heart of the planet, far below oceans and continents, a molten core of iron churns slowly. With each motion, it generates a magnetic field, a force that extends far into space. This field forms what scientists call the magnetosphere, a vast bubble around Earth. Inside this bubble, solar winds are bent and guided, pushed aside like rivers flowing around stone. Picture it for a moment. Earth, a sphere of blue and green, surrounded by glowing lines of magnetic energy, curving gracefully outward, wrapping the planet in safety. Beyond, the solar wind rushes by, fast and relentless, but deflected, diverted, allowed only to glance instead of strike. If this shield were absent, the story of Earth would be very different. The sun's wind would erode the atmosphere, tearing it away molecule by molecule. Radiation would fall unfiltered, breaking DNA, sterilizing oceans, making land uninhabitable. The Earth would look more like Mars, dry, bare, stripped of air. Instead, the shield holds and it does more than defend. Sometimes, in a quiet display of beauty, it reveals its presence. When charged particles slip into the atmosphere near the poles, they collide with air, and the sky comes alive with light. Curtains of green and red shimmer, flowing like rivers, dancing silently across the heavens. These are auroras, the breath of the shield, the gentle reminder of its ceaseless work. If you have ever seen one, you might have felt as though you were watching a secret revealed, a glimpse of cosmic design made visible. But even if you have not, imagine for a moment standing beneath them. The cold air bites softly at your skin, the world around you is hushed, and overhead the sky ripples with colors as if painted by unseen hands. It is not merely light, but a story written by Earth's defenses, a story of protection, of endurance. of survival. Beyond the magnetosphere, another shield waits. Higher in the atmosphere, molecules of ozone stretch thinly across the sky. They are fragile, yet their work is vital. Ozone absorbs ultraviolet radiation, filtering sunlight so that its warmth nourishes instead of destroys. Without this protection, the very energy that gives life would also burn it away. Together, these layers, the magnetic field, the ozone, the atmosphere itself, form a fortress. But it is a gentle fortress, one that guards without imprisoning, that allows the sun's light to sustain, while turning aside its harm. You might wonder, is it chance that Earth alone among nearby planets holds such protection? Or is it part of a deeper design, a deliberate balance written into the planet's very heart? Mars once had a magnetic field, but it weakened and died. With it, the atmosphere thinned, oceans vanished, and the surface was left scarred by radiation. Venus, though wrapped in thick air, lacks such shielding. Its skies trap heat instead of protecting life, and its surface is a furnace of crushing pressure and burning heat. Only Earth, with its molten heart still restless, still alive, holds the perfect shield. It is a reminder that what seems invisible is often essential. Think, too, of what this shield makes possible. Every river flowing to the Sol exists because Earth's defenses endure. Without them, no forest could grow, no ocean could teem with life, no human could walk beneath the stars. The shield does not ask for recognition, yet it shapes everything. It even reaches into your daily life in ways you may not notice. The atmosphere that carries sound, the seasons that guide harvests, the gentle rhythm of climatol are preserved because the shield deflects the storms of space. Sometimes you may pause at night and look upward. Stars shine, distant and eternal, their light traveling millions of years to meet your eyes. Yet between you and them, the shield waits, filtering, protecting, ensuring that what reaches you is not destruction, but wonder. It is humbling to imagine Earth's place in this vastness, against the immensity of space, against the violence of stars, against the emptiness of interstellar distances. A small planet persists, not by chance alone, perhaps, but by the presence of this hidden guardian. There is a kind of poetry in the thought that the same molten core that formed the continents and drove volcanoes also gave rise to the magnetic field, that the same chemistry that allowed oxygen to fill the skies also gave birth to ozone. The shields are not separate from Earth, but expressions of it, threads woven into its fabric. And in this weaving, you might sense intention. Not intention as a human hand might build a wall, but intention as nature itself might write, shaping over time, adjusting, balancing, until the design became one of resilience. You, sitting here, listening, are a product of that resilience. Every cell in your body, every thought in your mind, every breath you take has been safeguarded for billions of years by defenses you cannot see. Imagine for a moment a future without it. A world where the magnetic field has faded, where radiation falls unchecked, where air is stripped away, but is no longer. And then remember that this is not the world you inhabit. Your world is shielded, your life is protected. The defenses still hold. You might think of Earth as a living being, with skin and breath, heart and bones. And like any living being, it has a spirit of survival. The shield is part of that spirit, the unseen determination that life should not only exist, but endure so. The next time you feel the wind on your face, or see the stars in the night sky, think of what lies between you and the cosmos. A cloak, a barrier, a guardian, a shield that guards from the stars. and though you cannot see it, you live within its embrace, always. High above you, steady in its orbit, there hangs a companion. It is quiet, unblinking, and endlessly faithful. Night after night, it appears sometimes whole and glowing, sometimes a thin curve of silver, sometimes hidden but always returning. The moon, it seems simple at first glance, a pale disk drifting across the sky. But when you pause to reflect, you begin to realize how improbable, how extraordinary, and how essential this companion truly is. The moon is more than decoration for the night. It is a partner in Earth's story, a silent sculptor of time, climate, and life. Without it, Earth would not be the Earth you know. Imagine the very beginning. Long ago, more than 4 billion years past, Earth was still young. Its surface was molten, its air toxic, its seas not yet formed. Then came a collision. A massive body, perhaps the size of Mars, struck the planet. From that cataclysm, debris was hurled into orbit, and slowly, over time, it gathered together. From fire and chaos, the moon was born. It could have been smaller. It could have drifted farther. It could have slipped away. But instead, it stayed, large enough and close enough to influence the planet profoundly. Consider its size. Compared to Earth, the moon is unusually large for a satellite. Many other planets have moons, but none are so well matched. The moon is big enough to shape the tilt of Earth's axis, steadying it against wild swings. Without this stability, Earth would wobble unpredictably, its climates shifting violently over thousands of years. Ice ages might deepen beyond recovery, or heat waves might leave the land barren. Life, if it emerged at all, would struggle against constant upheaval. Instead, the moon's presence holds Earth steady, like a gentle hand guiding balance. The tilt remains stable, the seasons reliable, the climate calm enough for life to flourish. When you see the moon in the night sky, you are seeing the reason why spring returns, why summers come and go, why winters do not consume the world entirely. The moon's influence extends further still. With its gravity, it pulls on Earth's oceans, creating tides. Twice each day, the seas rise and fall, drawn toward and away from the moon's orbit. This rhythm, this eternal breathing of the sea, has shaped coastlines, carved estuaries, and nurtured life. Imagine the first creatures to crawl from ocean onto land. They were guided, in part, by tides. Pools, left behind by retreating water, became laboratories for evolution, testing grounds where fins became limbs, where gills learned to breathe air. The moon's pull gave life a reason to reach outward, to explore new worlds, to expand beyond the ocean. Without it, perhaps that step would never have been taken. Even now, tides regulate life along the coasts. They stir nutrients, carry sediments, and sustain ecosystems. The moon, though distant and silent, writes its influence into the daily lives of countless species, from tiny crabs to towering whales. And it is not just biology, it is time itself. For early humans, the moon was the first calendar. Its cycle of phases offered a way to measure months, to track seasons, to anticipate migrations and harvests. Long before mechanical clocks, long before written words, people raised their eyes to the moon and counted its changes. It gave rhythm not only to the tides, but to human thought, to ritual, to the very idea of measuring time. There is also its beauty. Stand beneath a full moon on a quiet night, and you will feel it, the hush, the silver glow painting trees and fields, the soft shadows stretching long. For countless generations, the moon has inspired stories, poems, songs, and dreams. It is both science and symbol, both fact and mystery. But beyond beauty, beyond rhythm, beyond time, there is something else, something uncanny. The moon appears in the sky almost the same size as the sun. Though the sun is vast, hundreds of times larger, it is also far away. By coincidence or perhaps by design, the moon is placed at just the right distance, that from Earth, the two appear equal. This perfect alignment makes eclipses possible. When the moon passes in front of the sun, it fits so precisely that the solar disk is covered, but the glowing corona flares around its edge. For minutes, the day turns to twilight. Stars emerge, and the universe reveals itself in ways otherwise hidden. What are the chances of such perfection? Other planets do not know this balance. Their moons are too small, too large, too distant. Only Earth sees its star and its satellite as equals in the sky. Only Earth witnesses the poetry of eclipses. You might wonder, is it coincidence, or is it part of a pattern, a hint that the moon is not random, but part of a deliberate symmetry woven into the design of Earth? Scientists can describe the physics, the gravity, the orbits, but science cannot erase the sense of wonder. That in all the immensity of space, in all the randomness of collisions and trajectories, the Earth should end with a moon so perfectly sized, so perfectly placed, that it not only shapes the planet's survival, but also creates beauty that touches the human spirit. The moon even slows Earth's rotation, little by little, as tides drag against the spin. Long ago, a day was much shorter. As time passes, days lengthen, seasons stretch, and Earth's rhythm evolves. This gentle slowing is not destructive, but steady, gradual, almost like the pacing of a long story. The moon writes time on Earth in ways subtle and profound. Think, too, of what the night sky would be without it. A sky with stars, yes, but no beacon, no shifting phases, no familiar guide. The moon offers orientation, comfort, a reminder that, even in darkness, light is never entirely gone. Perhaps this is why humans dreamed of it so early. They imagined gods upon it, lovers reaching for it, travelers guided by it. And in modern times, they reached it, stepping onto its surface, leaving footprints in dust that will last millions of years. In doing so, they connected Earth and Moon, not just by gravity, but by history, by choice, by story. The Moon, then, is not only a satellite, it is a companion, a stabilizer, a guide, a partner in the great design of life. It whispers that Earth is not alone, that even in the vastness of space, there is partnership, balance, and perhaps intention. When you next look upward and see its pale light shining, remember the countless roles it plays, the tides it stirs, the seasons it steadies, the rhythms it sets, the beauty it offers, the eclipses it grants. It may seem quiet, but it is never passive. It is always at work, always shaping, always holding Earth within its influence, a companion too perfect to chance. Perhaps, or perhaps, it is simply another part of the Earth's delicate design, a reminder that this planet was meant not only to exist, but to be lived upon, cherished, and understood. And as you drift into thought, let the moon keep watch, a constant presence, a gentle companion, a guardian in the night. If you pause and look closely at the world around you, you will notice something extraordinary. Beneath the surface of forests, oceans, and skies, beneath the quiet rhythm of seasons and storms, there are patterns, delicate, repeating, almost mathematical in their perfection. They appear in the curve of a seashell, in the branching of trees, in the spirals of galaxies far away. They appear in the shapes of clouds, in the flow of rivers, in the wings of a dragonfly. The world is not random chaos. It is woven with symmetry, geometry, and order that seem to whisper of design. Consider the spiral. You might picture the shell of a nautilus growing outward in precise curves, or the seeds of a sunflower, each arranged in radiating spirals that follow the golden ratio, a mathematical constant that appears again and again in nature. Even hurricanes, massive and wild, curl into spirals as if obeying the same quiet rule. Why? Should this pattern emerge in seashells, in flowers, in storms, and in galaxies? The physics of growth, the mathematics of efficiency, the way energy distributes itself. Yes, science explains these things. And yet, there is something mesmerizing in how the same pattern repeats across such different scales. From the smallest shell to the largest star system, the spiral emerges, like an echo, like a signature dot. It makes you wonder who signed it. Then there is the branching pattern. Look at a tree. The trunk divides into limbs. The limbs divide into branches. The branches into twigs. This fractal design allows leaves to reach sunlight efficiently, spreading life outward in every direction. Now look at a river. It begins as a source, then splits into tributaries, streams, and rivulets, spreading across the land in veins of water. Look inside your own body, and you will find the same design in your veins, in your lungs, in the very highways that carry breath and blood through you. How strange that trees, rivers, and lungs should share the same architecture, different materials, different purposes, yet the same pattern repeats, as though the universe has a favored way of building life and flow. Even lightning streaks across the sky in branching paths, echoing the veins of a leaf. The same shape appears in storm and stone, in body and forest, in light and water. Everywhere the branching repeats. Everywhere the same handwriting seems to appear. And then the hexagon. Bees know it well. They build their honeycombs with hexagonal cells, not by chance, but because it is the most efficient shape for storing honey, conserving wax, and sharing walls. It is engineering perfected by instinct. Yet the bees are not alone. Snowflakes crystallize into hexagonal symmetry. Lava, when it cools and contracts, can break into hexagonal columns, like those found at the Giant's Causeway in Ireland. Even the surface of Saturn's North Pole holds a vast, persistent, hexagonal storm. What is it about 6 sides? Why does the hexagon appear in ice, in fire, in gas, in biology? Again, physics and chemistry explain. But the recurrence is so elegant, so universal, that one cannot help but feel a whisper, a suggestion of something intentional. Look also at symmetry in living things. A butterfly's wings mirror one another with striking precision. A starfish spreads its arms evenly from a central point. Flowers often bloom in petals of 3, 5, or multiples thereof. Even your own body, though imperfect, reflects bilateral symmetry, to eyes, to ears, to hands, balanced on a single axis. Symmetry is not necessary for survival. It is, in many ways, an added grace. And yet, it is everywhere, giving order, giving beauty, as though life itself were composed with an artist's sense of balance. But nature is not only symmetry, it is also rhythm. The tides rise and fall, guided by the moon. Day turns to night, night to day. Seasons circle endlessly. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. Life itself follows cycles: birth, growth, decline, renewal. The rhythm is so reliable that we forget how remarkable it is. Why should a planet spin just so, to create days and nights of livable length? Why should its orbit produce seasons, neither too harsh nor too mild? Why should the moon, as we have seen, choreograph the tides into perfect timing? Rhythm is not accidentally sustains life, giving it predictability, giving it harmony. Even the smallest creatures live by rhythm. Birds migrate with the seasons. Flowers open to the sun and close at night. Your heart beats in steady pulses. Your breath flows in waves. You are a living rhythm, a song carried in flesh and blood. And patterns are not only visible, they are audible. Think of birdsong, intricate yet structured. Think of the hum of cicadas, synchronized across vast forests. Think of whales calling in deep oceans, their songs carrying for hundreds of miles. Even human music, with its scales and harmonies, seems to echo natural patterns, as though sound itself has rules written into it long before instruments were made. Then there are numbers. The Fibonacci sequence, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13 appear. In the spirals of pine cones, the arrangement of leaves, the growth of shells, it is as if life grows, not randomly, but by following a quiet code, a sequence of numbers written into petals, seeds, and spines. And there is the constant of pi, the ratio of a circle, showing up wherever curves exist. The golden ratio, phi, governing proportions that humans instinctively find beautiful. These numbers are not inventions, they are discoveries. They were already there, hidden in shells, in waves, in galaxies, waiting to be noticed. When you see patterns repeating, when you hear rhythms recurring, when you find numbers hidden in petals and stars, you might begin to ask, are these coincidences of physics, or are they signatures of something greater? Some suggest that if there were architects of this world, they would leave behind signs not written in stone, but in the very fabric of nature. They would write in spirals and branches, in symmetry and rhythm, in numbers and ratios. They would hide their art in plain sight, woven into seashells and galaxies alike. Imagine an ancient intelligence, crafting not a machine, but a living world. Instead of ink, they use rivers. Instead of canvas, they use forests. Instead of stone, they use stars. The patterns you see might be the brushstrokes of design, the whispers of an artist too vast to comprehend. Of course, science provides explanations. Patterns arise from mathematics, from physics, from chemistry. Spirals emerge from growth, branches from flow, symmetry from balance. But the very fact that the universe obeys such mathematics is itself mysterious. Why should it be lawful? Why should it be beautiful? Why should it be comprehensible at all? Perhaps the answer lies not in choosing between science and wonder, but in recognizing that both coexist, that the patterns of nature are real, measurable, predictably, and also astonishing, poetic, whispering of something deeper. When you next walk beneath trees, pause to look at the branches overhead. When you next hold a seashell, trace its spiral with your finger. When you next see a snowflake drift through the air, marvel at its sixfold symmetry. These are not mere accidents. They are messages, written softly, patiently, eternally. Patterns in nature are not just survival strategies. They are stories. They tell you that the universe is ordered, that life is shaped, that beauty is not an illusion, but a fundamental part of reality. They whisper, always whisper, of architects, and perhaps that whisper is not meant to be answered with certainty, but to be felt, to stir curiosity, to inspire awe, to remind you that in every leaf, every star, every wave, there may be meaning far beyond what is seen. Above you, the night sky stretches like an endless canvas. Dotted across its dark expanse are stars, some faint, some bright, some clustered, some alone. For most of human history, people have looked upward in wonder, asking what lies beyond, asking whether the lights in the sky were simply distant suns, or whether they were signs, signs of something greater, signs of other hands. Imagine lying beneath that sky, far from the noise of cities, around you, silence, above you, billions of stars. You might feel very small, as if you were a single breath in a vast ocean of space. And yet, you might also feel connected, as though the very patterns of the stars were speaking. For when you look long enough, the stars do not appear scattered. They form alignments, shapes, rhythms. They form constellations, drawn by the human mind, but guided by the placement of light itself. Long ago, civilizations looked to these constellations as maps, as guides, as stories. The Greeks saw hunters and heroes written in the stars. The Egyptians built monuments aligned with the heavens. The Mayans and the Chinese charted the sky with meticulous care, finding cycles, predicting eclipses, noting patterns that repeated across centuries. It is striking how many ancient structures point not inward, but outward to the stars. The pyramids of Giza align with Orion's belt. Stonehenge marks the solstices. In Chichen Itza, the temple of Kukulkan casts the shadow of a serpent during equinox sunsets, as though designed to merge earth and sky. Again and again, humanity has turned its gaze upward, not only in curiosity, but in reverence. Why? Perhaps because the stars hint at something intentional. Their cycles are too steady, their beauty too overwhelming, their mysteries too deep. They invite questions, they invite wonder. And in that wonder, some hear whispers of design. Astronomers today know that stars are born in vast clouds of dust and gas, igniting under gravity, burning for millions or billions of years before collapsing into white dwarfs, neutron stars, or black holes. We know that stars cluster into galaxies, galaxies into clusters, and clusters into the great web of the universe. Yet even with science's clarity, the patterns remain mesmerizing. Think of the constancy of the North Star, guiding travelers for centuries. Think of the way the Milky Way arches across the sky like a river of light. Think of the way galaxies spiral, echoing the same patterns found in seashells and hurricanes. These cosmic shapes do not merely exist, they recur, as though the entire universe is woven from the same threads. And there is something else. The universe has laws, gravity, electromagnetism, nuclear forces that operate everywhere. From the smallest atom to the largest cluster of galaxies, the same laws hold. Why should this be so? Why should a universe vast beyond imagination be so consistent, so elegant, so comprehensible? Some say it is because it was written that way, because it was designed with care by hands we cannot see. Even the placement of Earth in the cosmos feels curious. Our sun is not the largest nor the brightest, but it is stable, long-lived, and gentle enough to sustain life for billions of years. Our planet orbits in a band where liquid water can exist, not too close, not too far, around us. The solar system acts like a shield. Jupiter's immense gravity pulls away comets and asteroids that might otherwise strike Earth more often. The moon, our companion, steadies Earth's tilt, creating seasons that nurture life. It is as if Earth is placed, not just anywhere, but somewhere just right. Some call this the Goldilocks principle, but others ask, if the cosmos is so vast, why should one small planet be so perfect? Is it simply chance, or is it a sign? Look further outward, and the mystery deepens. Our galaxy alone holds hundreds of billions of stars. The universe holds billions of galaxies. With so many worlds, The probability of others like Earth seems high. And yet, so far, silence. No signal, no clear evidence of life beyond. The stars may hint at other hands, but they remain quiet. Perhaps they are quiet by choice. There is a theory known as the cosmic zoo, which suggests that advanced civilizations may exist but choose not to reveal themselves, watching from afar, allowing Earth to grow in its own way. If this is true, then the stars above might not only be suns, they might be windows behind which unseen eyes are watching, waiting. Another idea is older, more mythical. It suggests that Earth itself is not accidental, but an experiment. That long ago, in the depths of time, intelligence beyond our own shaped this world, placed it in orbit, seeded it with life, and set it spinning. The stars above, in this vision, are reminders, clues, perhaps even homes of those who crafted us. If you look up, you might be looking toward their dwelling places, their laboratories, their temples in the sky. It is speculation, yes, but speculation, born of wonder, born of the patterns that seem too perfect to ignore, even the cosmic background. The faint radiation left from the birth of the universe carries mysteries. Some researchers have suggested it holds irregularities, strange anomalies that should not exist if everything were purely random. A faint cold spot in the sky, a region unlike its surroundings, has stirred whispers. Could it be an imprint, a signal, an intentional mark, like a fingerprint left behind at the moment of creation? Imagine, for a moment, that you could drift through the stars, that you could rise above Earth, past the moon, past the planets, out into the vast dark where galaxies float like islands of light. You might see patterns invisible from below, alignments, structures, filaments of matter stretched across unimaginable distances. It would be like looking at a tapestry from afar, realizing that what seemed random threads are actually woven with care. Astronomers call this the cosmic web. Galaxies arranged not randomly, but in filaments and clusters, as though strung along invisible lines. If you step back far enough, the universe looks less like chaos and more like design. A great architecture, vast and silent, hinting at hands. We cannot see. And so, when people look at the stars, they often feel two things at once: insignificance and belonging. Insignificance, because the universe is vast and we are small. Belonging, because the patterns repeat, the laws are consistent, and somehow we fit into them. It is as though the universe leaves space for us, as though we were meant to be here. When you stand beneath the night sky, try to let yourself feel both truths. You are a single breath in an ocean of stars, and you are part of the pattern, part of the rhythm, part of the great architecture. The stars above are not just distant fires. They are clues, they are whispers, they are invitations to wonder, whether written by physics, by chance, or by other hands. The night sky remains the greatest mystery of all, and perhaps, when you close your eyes, drifting toward sleep, you might still see those stars, silent, steady, shimmering, always above you, always hinting, always waiting. Imagine, for a moment, that Earth itself was not simply the result of natural processes. Imagine instead that it was chosen, shaped, and nurtured long before humanity arrived. A living experiment, set in motion by beings older than our stories, older than our sun. If this were true, what would it mean? What signs might remain? What clues might still be hidden, waiting for us to notice? The idea is not new. Across human history, myths and legends often tell of beings descending from the sky, bringing knowledge, shaping the land, or guiding life. From the Sumerian tales of the Anunnaki to to the Hopi stories of star people, to the gods of Olympus and the deities of Egypt, again and again. Civilizations have imagined a link between the heavens and the earth. Perhaps these stories were not merely imagination, but distant echoes of something real. If Earth was an experiment, its design is remarkable. The balance is precise, as though adjusted with care. Gravity is strong enough to hold an atmosphere, yet gentle enough to allow life to thrive. The mixture of gases in the air, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide's tuned to sustain complex organisms. The oceans cover most of the surface, creating a circulation system for heat and nutrients, while land remains exposed to foster diversity. From the tilt of Earth's axis to the rhythm of its seasons, the conditions seem almost too favorable. If life were seeded here deliberately, what would the gardeners have used? Perhaps they carried the building blocks of life: amino acids, complex molecules, strands of DNA scattered like seeds across the young world. Or perhaps they guided what was already beginning, shaping it, encouraging certain pathways over others. In this vision, the history of Earth becomes less an accident and more a narrative, one chapter after another in a grand design. Consider the sudden explosions of life in the fossil record. The Cambrian explosion, 500 million years ago, when countless new forms appeared almost at once. Or the mysterious shifts that led from primitive cells to complex, multicellular creatures. These leaps may simply be the pace of evolution, but to some, they suggest interventions, as though hands unseen adjusted the course. Even the rise of humanity feels uncanny. For millions of years, Earth was home to countless species, and then, in a relatively brief span of time, one species developed tools, language, art, and memory. One species looked at the stars and wondered. One species built civilizations, wrote stories, and dreamed of its origins. Was this simply evolution's course, or was it a planned outcome, carefully watched from afar? If Earth is an experiment, it may not be alone. Perhaps there are other worlds, scattered across the galaxy, each seeded with life, each watched to see what arises. A cosmic garden, with countless planets as plots of soil and intelligent beings as gardeners. Some plots may have flourished, producing civilizations far beyond our own. Others may have withered, their experiments ending in silence. And perhaps Earth is one of the many thriving for now, still growing, still being observed. But why? Why would an ancient intelligence seed life at all? One possibility is curiosity. Just as we place seeds in soil to see what grows, perhaps they planted life here to witness its unfolding. Another possibility is preservation. Perhaps they gathered the genetic blueprints of life from elsewhere in the cosmos and spread them across new worlds, ensuring that life could never be extinguished entirely. Or perhaps it was not life they sought to preserve, but consciousness. Perhaps the rise of beings who could think, reflect, and dream was the true goal. Some suggest an even deeper reason, that we ourselves are part of a story that leads beyond Earth, that one day humanity will leave this planet, carrying life to other worlds, continuing the cycle. In that sense, we may not just be the result of an experiment, we may be participants in one. The experiment itself, designed to see whether intelligence can spread, whether it can endure. If this is true, there may be signs left behind, subtle markers hidden in plain sight. Some point to the genetic code itself, complexity, its elegance, its apparent redundancies, as if it carries more than biology, perhaps even messages written long ago. Others wonder about ancient structures on Earth, whose construction seems to defy explanation. The pyramids, the megaliths, the alignments with the stars, were these monuments built only by human hands? Or were they inspired, guided, or even designed as markers? Still others look beyond Earth, to the Moon and Mars, where unusual formations spark imagination. A face-like hill here, a geometric shape there, shadows that seem to hint at artificiality. Most of these, science explains as natural, and yet the allure of possibility remains. If the experiment was vast, would it not leave traces in many places? Would it not leave hints, like notes left behind for future discovery? Imagine for a moment that somewhere, hidden deep within Earth's crust, or oceans, there lies a vault. Not a vault of human making, but one built long before us. Perhaps it contains records, technologies, or simply silent machines, watching, measuring, waiting. A seed bank of knowledge, left by those who began the experiment. If one day we discover such a thing, would we recognize it? Or would it seem so alien, so beyond us, that we would not even understand what we had found? It is easy to dismiss these thoughts as speculation, and yet there is something profound in the idea. If Earth was an experiment, it means we are not alone, not in the sense of neighbors we can speak with, but in the sense that our existence was intended. That life here was guided, that consciousness was nurtured, that our journey was meant to unfold. And in a way, does this not mirror what humans themselves now do? We plant seeds, we cultivate crops, we shape animals through breeding, we even experiment with genetics. We create simulations, running countless versions of worlds inside machines. We imagine, we design, we test. If we do these things, is it so unthinkable that others, far older and wiser, might have done the same with us? There is a strange comfort in this thought, for if Earth was an experiment, it suggests that someone cared enough to begin it, that someone invested time, energy, and intention into nurturing life here. It suggests that our existence is not a meaningless accident, but part of a greater design. Of course, there is another possibility. If we are an experiment, then like any experiment, we may be watched, not with care, but with detachment. The gardeners may not interfere, they may not even care about outcomes beyond observation. To them, our struggles and triumphs may be no more significant than the growth of cells in a dish. We may be precious or we may be data, and yet, whether precious or data, whether nurtured or simply measured, the result is the same. We exist, we breathe, we wonder, and in our wondering, we create meaning. When you look at Earth, the forests, the rivers, the mountains, the endless skies, it is easy to believe that such beauty must have been intended. When you look at humanity, the art, the music, the laughter, the sorrow, it is easy to believe that such depth must have a purpose. Whether that purpose comes from evolution, from chance, or from ancient alien experimenters, the result is the same. A world alive with meaning, a world worth cherishing. So, as you drift into thought, imagine yourself part of a story older than time. Imagine the stars as watchers, silent and patient. Imagine Earth as a chosen place, nurtured by hands unseen, and whether or not it is true, let the wonder remain. For in that wonder lies connection, connection to the Earth, to the cosmos, to mysteries that may never be solved, and perhaps that is the greatest experiment of all. There is a quiet moment when the world around you grows still and your mind drifts between wakefulness and sleep. It is in that place, gentle, unhurried, that the great questions of existence often come to rest. And perhaps the greatest question of all is this: is Earth truly ours alone, or are we part of something larger, something shared, something designed with care beyond our imagination? We have walked through many wonders in our journey. We have seen how Earth sits in a delicate position, the perfect balance between heat and cold, where water can flow and life can bloom. We have explored the strange precision of our atmosphere, the protective layers of our magnetic field, the guiding presence of our moon, and the mysterious patterns that echo across nature. We have even asked whether Earth itself could be an ancient experiment, carefully nurtured, watched from afar. Now, as we step into reflection, it is time to bring these threads together, to sit with them quietly, like stones arranged in a circle around a fire, each one glowing, each one carrying weight, each one offering a piece of the story. Imagine Earth not as a solitary planet, drifting unnoticed in a vast void, but as part of a living, breathing tapestry, a place chosen, or perhaps discovered, within the fabric of the universe, a place where life could not only survive, but thrive. When you think about the fragile balances that shape our world, the distance from the sun, the tilt of the axis, the rhythm of the seasons, it is tempting to believe there is intention woven into it, that these balances were not accidents, but choices. Like an artist mixing colors, or an architect aligning pillars with the stars, someone, somewhere, may have placed the pieces with care, and yet this thought carries with it both wonder and humility. For if Earth is not ours alone, if it was given, shaped, or tended by others, then we are not the masters of it, but its stewards. We are caretakers, entrusted with something extraordinary. Perhaps that is the deeper meaning. Whether Earth was designed or not, whether it was seeded by alien hands or sculpted by blind chance, we now hold it in our keeping. The forests, the oceans, the skies, these are not simply resources, not simply backdrops to our story. They are living parts of the experiment, living parts of the design. If life here was meant to flourish, then our role is to ensure that it continues to do so. And still, the question lingers. If Earth was part of a larger plan, then what comes next? Some imagine that we are being prepared, that humanity's story does not end here, but stretches outward to other worlds, that the same hands or minds that began this experiment may one day nudge us gently into the stars, as a parent guides a child to take its first steps beyond home. Perhaps one day we will plant life elsewhere, continuing the cycle, carrying the spark we were given into new soil. Others imagine that the story is less directed and more open, that Earth was a stage set with perfect conditions, but the play itself is ours to write. That whatever beings shaped or seeded this world long ago now watch from afar, perhaps no longer watch at all, leaving us to carry the experiment forward in our own way. If that is true, then the responsibility is even greater. For the future of this world and of life itself may rest in human hands. There is also the quieter possibility that Earth was not designed, not seeded, not guided, that it arose from chance alone, shaped only by physics and chemistry and time. And yet, even this thought carries its own form of wonder. For if life could arise here against all odds, then it means the universe is fertile. It means that out there, among the countless stars, other worlds may be alive as well. Other beings may wonder as we do, reflect as we do, look up at the night sky and ask, are we alone? So whether we are part of a design or simply part of chance, the result is the same. We are connected to a mystery far larger than ourselves, and maybe that is the point. Not to solve the mystery, not to answer every question, but to dwell within it, to let the wonder itself be enough, to breathe in the air, to feel the ground beneath your feet, to look at the stars, and to know that you are part of something. vast, something beautiful, something that might never be fully understood. Think of how small we are, and yet how capable of great thought. Think of how fragile Earth is, and yet how full of life. It is almost as if the universe, in its endless complexity, has bent itself toward awareness, toward reflection, toward moments like this, where a single mind can pause, can ask, can imagine. And now, as you rest, as your eyes grow heavy, imagine that you are not alone in your wondering. Somewhere, across the vast darkness, other beings may be asking the same questions. Somewhere, perhaps far older and wiser, they may look at Earth and smile, seeing in it not just an experiment, but a success, a place where life took root, where consciousness blossomed, where meaning was born. Or perhaps they do not watch at all. Perhaps it is only us now, carrying the mystery forward. But even then, we are not alone. For the rivers, the forests, the skies, they are with us. For the stars, the galaxies, the endless universe, they are with us. And for every human being who has ever lived and who will ever live, we are with one another. So let the thought linger gently. Earth may not be ours alone. It may be shared with the universe, with the unknown, with mysteries we cannot name. And that, in itself, is enough to bring peace. Close your eyes, feel the stillness. Let the story fade into silence. You are part of Earth. You are part of the cosmos. You are part of a question that may never end. And now, rest. Good night.